Welcome back to the Transform Awards Europe 2026. Well, I'm joined now by Peter Doby, who's the Creative Director at Designhouse. Now, Peter, you guys have been shortlisted in 6 categories for tonight's awards across 2 projects. But I think first of all, I want to hear a little bit about Designhouse. So tell me about what your strengths and specialisms are as an agency.
Well, apart from the obvious, and because every design group will tell you pretty much the same thing, we're all Me Too's of a sort. But our personality, we're very much about the relationship with the customer, with the client. A lot of our customers and clients go back a long time. And even if it's not with one client, the clients move shop and they stick with us. And we have a very long history of clients who have become friends of Designhouse and friends of us personally, which I think speaks volumes. And they do keep coming back, which is great, in whichever form, whichever client they happen to settle in. So I would say if it was one thing, it was our relationship with the customer, with the client.
Well, that's exactly what you want. And one of those clients that you're up for an award at Transform Europe tonight is a juror.
Yeah.
So maybe you can tell me a little bit about the naming strategy for that project and some of the complexities along the way.
Sure. It's a biggie. I don't think there's a bigger new brand on the planet. They took a £3 billion facility yesterday, which shows the faith of the financial industry in the brand. Well, it's a brand new brand. So how do you get credibility day one? How do you become authentic day one? It was really important. We met with both Equinor, who are the Norwegian part of the formula, if you like, and you've got Shell. And we met with both marketing teams, and it was very important that it reflected, to some degree, their equal values, but very importantly, it represented Aberdeen, because that's a city in decline. The whole oil and gas industry is at the tail end, if you like. If some people would say it's not, but it's at the tail end. So there's a bit of a depression in Aberdeen. So they really wanted this new brand to reflect the local centre of excellence in the oil and gas industry that Aberdeen is. So moving forward, they see that there's at least 30 years we're still going to need fossil fuels. What's happening in the Straits of Hormuz just now says we need it even more than ever to give us energy security in the UK.
No, absolutely. And how do you think your work for them kind of sets them up for the future?
Well, getting the loan yesterday. That speaks
Pretty
volumes.
big, yep.
3 billion, that the banks and a number of banks put 3 billion down and said, we believe in you. That's because we wanted a name that was instantly credible, instantly authentic, and reflected the honesty that we believed the client had to portray, given the times of the Greens, etc. It's not a particularly politically correct industry, and internally, some of our staff, we all discussed this, but having spoken to the client over many meetings last year, it's absolutely essential. If they turned the switch off now, we'd be in the dark. There'd be nothing to heat the house with, keep your cars going, and we'd start saying, why? Because someone turned off the gas and oil, and I think that's really important. So this brand had to be really authentic and reflect honesty.
Yeah, it's a fascinating project, and it sounds like there are plenty of challenges along the way that you had to overcome.
Yeah.
Moving on to the second project, though, Cruxy. Maybe you could tell me a little bit about them and what some of your favourite parts of the project was, creating that visual identity.
Well, they're a small player, so the important thing, you don't always get asked to create a brand that stands out, because you can stand out for the wrong reasons as well as standing out for the right. If you like, to some degree, Adura had to slip in and just feel like it's been there forever to give it that credibility. Cruxy was quite the opposite. They needed to ruffle a few feathers to get noticed, to stand out against the big boys. So we tried to personify that by being a calculated maverick. And those 2 words sit behind everything. The whole brand, all the messaging comes from that calculated maverick. So it's taking risks, but in a controlled way. And that's really what they have to stand for, and that's what they stand for the customers as well. So someone who's prepared with the new technologies to go beyond the safe and try out new things in order to get to a better result.
What did you consider to be the biggest challenge along the way in that particular project?
Going far enough. We actually knew we were in the right territory when we were a little uncomfortable with the ideas that we were putting forward. And the client completely supported them. It was fantastic to get that sort of appreciation. Because normally you normally do a spectrum of 3. You do the safe, the middle route, and then you push it out there. It's rare someone goes out there. They're generally hovering around the middle. They want it out there on the right-hand side, which for a designer is fantastic. Just push the envelope, go as far as you can.
Well, absolutely. And so turning the conversation back to Designhouse, you guys recently celebrated 55 years in business. Which, as we were just talking about, is pretty much unheard of in this particular industry. So what's the secret to that longevity?
Well, John and Tim started the business in the early 70s, and we were we had a much broader offer. Everything, architecture, packaging. There was no new technologies then. It was pretty much print and posters and packaging. And architecture, interiors, retail spaces, and what have you. But we started. Tim particularly was an expert in brewing, and we probably made a dent in more brewing brands portfolio than anybody else mainly because of Tim, sadly now gone. But so we worked across every sector. For all blue chip companies, we created a lot of relationships, getting back to what is our strength. We created a lot of early relationships which have stood the test of time. And I've only actually been involved with Designhouse since 2003, but I'm still talking to people I was talking to in 2003. And that in itself is quite an achievement.
No, it absolutely is. And so what do you think the future looks like for Designhouse? We talked about, the previous 55 years and the history, but what's the future like? How do you keep evolving with the times?
Well, obviously the technology. I used to be in advertising. I worked for Omnicom for many years, as did Lavinia, our CEO. And design, in a funny way, advertising's sort of on the way down because it's just got so diluted with all the different channels. Design, on the other hand, has had all these new digital channels arriving, and now we've got AI, which I'm actually really excited about. A lot of people say, "Oh, that's the end of design." Well, it is if you wanted something off the page, a little bit like stock photography is, but actually the ideas are intellectual. That intellectual bit is the bit that drives us most. How we deliver it, the tools that we use, the Apple Mac was treated the same way when it first came out. Yep. AI, I'm really excited about, and I continually playing with things and just amazed at what we can generate really quickly. So it basically opens up the spectrum of what we can do. Because like in the film business, the special effects technology is the only limitation to what you can achieve. And it's the same, I think, in terms of design. AI just opens the door to a whole raft load of new thinking.
Is it something that's being implemented within Designhouse?
Oh, yes.
Or something it is?
I mean, it has been. If even the individual bits of software are driven a lot by AI now, things like Photoshop, outline a product. You just say, outline it, whereas we used to sit for hours and draw around it with a mouse to create it. That's been around for quite a while. What's new is where it will actually take an image and make that image move in a very realistic way, or do things with it that you didn't think were possible or within budget. So it actually opens the door for smaller clients to have big clients' budget, if you like, in terms of what you can produce. Not the budget itself, but the result for a much smaller budget. That's really exciting.
No, it is. And thank you so much for your time, Peter.
Not at all.
It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you for asking me here.
No worries, and best of luck at tonight's awards.
Yes.